as we open up our text for today, this is exactly the pressure that Joshua, the son of Nun, was feeling in Joshua 1 and 2. There is no doubt that Moses was an impactful leader and chosen by God. However, after his death, the Lord allows him to grieve, but he wastes no time in prepping the new leader to finish what he had in mind from the Israelites from the beginning.
Come on.
And that should encourage someone that years can pass. People may leave our lives by either death or another situation, but a promise is a promise. Tell somebody it's still coming because he promised.
It's still coming.
And if he has to remove people and raise up someone else, it will happen because he promised. Somebody say he promised. And that's why we can't give up too early when what we see looks contrary to what we heard. But somebody knows that now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. I don't see it, but I heard his promise. I'm holding on to it. The Lord promised these people a land flowing with milk and honey. The whole plan to leave Egypt was to get them to the promised place. Somebody shout the promised place. And a quick synopsis of what happened. They left Egypt and Moses set out to take them to Canaan. And here is my first major point. Don't allow disobedience, hear me, fear, and the past to reroute you on a journey that has already been ordered and set before you. They did not have to make this a 40-year trip. Geographically speaking, the distance between Egypt and Canaan was not even that long of a journey. Nowhere in the text does it suggest that they didn't know where the promised land was. They knew where it was. They even sent in some guys to scout it out. Moses sent spies to see what was happening in the promised land. And the spies got all panicky because they thought they couldn't take on the Canaanites. And the Lord was like, yeah, you guys aren't ready for freedom. And he sent them on a really long walk. They didn't wander for 40 years because they were lost. They wandered for 40 years because they were traumatized by slavery. And they needed to get used to freedom.
Yeah.
Basically, they wandered for 40 years because therapy hadn't been invented yet. But I would also venture to say that the Lord forbade them from going there. The Lord wanted most of that generation to die off before the Israelites could inherit the promised land. They wandered not because they were lost, but because the Lord could not allow the cancer of their horrible past to contaminate the fruitful future that was waiting for them. And I can hear some of you in the spirit saying, why am I still single? Why don't I have the career that I desire? Why am I not fully established? Why can't I maintain good, healthy friendships? What am I doing wrong? But here's your prophetic word. The devil is not holding you back. It's God. Some of us are not ready for what we think we are ready for. If God gives us what we desire now while we're undeveloped, immature, and not healed, we'll ruin the good thing before we can even enjoy it. The Israelites were so used to the mistreatment of Pharaoh that freedom became foreign to them. It put them in a state of delusion. It's a dangerous place to be in, to be free and still have imaginary shackles on your hands and feet. Ain't nothing there but the illusions and lies in your mind. You need a mind renewal. Somebody shout, you need a mind renewal. Some of you guys go about life saying, I won't let them hurt me again. I know they're probably getting ready to betray me like the last set of friends. I know he's cheating. I see the signs. But the devil is a liar. Get your mind renewed and sometimes merge that with therapy. A lot of us are slaves to our mind. Most of this was post-traumatic stress disorder that the Israelites were dealing with, but undiagnosed. PTSD is a psychiatric disorder that may occur in people who have experienced or witnessed a traumatic event such as natural disaster, a serious accident, a terrorist attack, war combat, or rape, who have been threatened with death, sexual violence, or serious injury. People with PTSD have intense, disturbing thoughts and feelings related to their experience that last long after the traumatic event has happened. They may relive the events through flashbacks or nightmares. They may feel sadness, fear, or anger, and they may feel detached or estranged from other people. People with PTSD may avoid situations or people that remind them of the traumatic event, and they may have strong negative reactions to something that sounds loud or accidental. What kind of prosperous life live if this stronghold over your mind is hindering you from moving forward. If I could have spoken to the Israelites, I would have told them that the experience of slavery was not their fault, but healing from it was their responsibility. Look at somebody and say, what happened wasn't your fault, but healing is your responsibility. I understand what happened was unfortunate, but don't let PTSD be the handicap that you use for the rest of your life for the reason why you are the way that you are. I'm angry because I was betrayed. I walk away from people and don't speak to them because people have hurt me. I curse people out because I hate what was done to me in the dark as a child. I don't trust any man to date me because I was taken advantage of. All of these are valid reasonings, but it cannot become a crutch. You have to be free in Jesus' name. In the name of Jesus, may the Father wash the memories of the pain, burn the sting of the heartaches, and give you faith to live again. And we need to stop this horrible narrative in the black church that we have adopted, that seeking professional help means you're demonic or severely mentally ill. May the revelation of Jesus in therapy be your portion today. Minds are so fragile, and some of us have gone through terrible things and wonder why we're so damaged and dysfunctional. You show me someone who has a bad attitude, terrible social skills, and just can't maintain relationships, and I'll show you someone who tried their best to cope with a traumatic event and tried to do it by purging and screaming alone. That works, but I'm praying that there's a day that we accept the miraculous and the medical. Somebody say God can use both. And so we enter the beginning of the book of Joshua, and those who were led by Moses initially could not let the past go, and so they died off, and the children of those were now grown and ready to take on whatever challenges that lie ahead with Joshua as their leader. It was a new day and a new excitement in the air, and the most anticipated promise of possessing the land was imminent, and the children were about to see what the fathers could not. The fathers left the slavery of Egypt, but the children were about to walk into the whole reason why slavery had to be eradicated in their lives. God doesn't just bring us out of bondage just to free us, hear me, but He frees us into abundance. After all the hell you've experienced, there is a reaping season of blessing for all of the tears that you sowed. You can always expect a celebration after being caged by the cares of this world. Just encourage your neighbor and say, after the cage comes the celebration. They were caged in slavery, and now they were about to celebrate in Canaan. And so as we travel through the beginning, y'all still with me? The Lord is repeating promises to Joshua that He once said to Moses. He promised that He would not forsake him, and that as He was with Moses, so shall He be with him. He encouraged him to be strong. Only be thou strong. And this was a new and awesome assignment that lay ahead of Joshua, but he had the backing of the Lord. Joshua sent spies to scope out Jericho, and they make a pact with a harlot named Rahab. Apparently the Israelites' reputation precedes them. She tells them, I know that God, that Lord that has given you the land, and that the terror of you has fallen on us, and that all the inhabitants of the land have melted away before you. For we have heard how the Lord dried up the water of the Red Sea before when you came out of Egypt, and what you did to the two kings of the Amorites who were beyond the Jordan, to Sihon and Og, whom you utterly destroyed. When we heard it, our hearts melted, and no courage remained in any man any longer because of you. For the Lord your God, He is God in heaven above and on earth below. Just look at somebody and tell them, the devil hears you coming. He knows that you're so close to the promised place that there are rumors in hell about your arrival. And it's not so much that they fear you, it's the loyalty and the protection of God that you have on your side. The people of Jericho heard all of the wonders of the Lord, and sometimes the devil has a better memory of what God has done in our lives than we do. Rahab recalled some monumental victories for more. Come on, we're almost there. When word got back to Joshua that Jericho was in fear and preparing for defeat, it was all the confidence that he needed to pursue. And so he started making plans to cross over the Jordan River and siege Jericho. We